The event's second day was opened by Tom Burns of Dell Networking, and he would be talking about the recently concluded merger between Dell and the massive storage company EMC. He opened by saying that it was his first opportunity to talk about why the merger took place.
So let's talk a little bit about why did Michael do this? Why are we bringing two significantly sized, well-provided IP companies together while maybe some other companies are beginning to split up and disperse some of their IP and their assets? Maybe first, let's talk about what I believe. You know, I worked at Alcatel-Lucent for close to 14 years. I was president of the enterprise business. And during that course in time, what I learned from our customers based upon the challenges that they were facing around the explosion of devices, around cloud, around the various transformations that were occurring, the demands that were coming to them from their users and their customers, that partners and customers were truly looking for a new partner.
Burns said that he was enticed to move from Alcatel-Lucent because he was impressed by Dell's customer focus.
And I'll give one example. Last year, while there was a lot of, let's say, turmoil in the industry, and you saw a lot of companies shrinking, we actually hired close to 2,000 more salespeople. Now, if we were a public company, shareholders would have said, Michael needs to get his head examined. Revenues declined. Margins were tightened. We invested more. Then what did he do? He announced the acquisition of EMC. By bringing together these technologies, we believe that we are building a partner to help IT transform during these very challenging times. What does the acquisition really bring together? It brings together an incredible base of intellectual property and technology. And as we bring them across, it really allows the building blocks for companies not to just run traditional IT, but what we call modern IT, or cloud-native applications. And I'll talk more about this in a moment. But from the foundation of infrastructure between Dell and EMC, our compute, storage, networking capabilities provide the basis of a platform that enables companies to deliver the services, the applications, the capabilities that they need to move forward. With our strategically aligned partners such as VMware, number one in software virtualization and orchestration, and in building even further assets with its NXX capability around security and network virtualization. We then move into the capability to potentially help our customers host some of their most critical applications with private cloud capabilities coming from VirtuStream, and then actually provide a platform for DevOps and application development with our asset Pivotal. And obviously with this IT transformation, security continues to be at the backbone of concerns. As we enable more internet connections, as we enable more devices, as we look at more insights of these applications and these connected capabilities, we're concerned around the security and the access to that. So we have, with this acquisition, the security assets of RSA, and we continue to invest in our SecureWorks cybersecurity company, which is now partially public as well.
Burns went on to talk about the synergies between Dell and EMC, and then about the IT imperatives.
Now why, again, are we doing this? Well, there's some IT imperatives that we have to think about. If we look at the last 15 years, in the IT industry, you've got pretty much an IT team that has been IT-centric. You know, systems of record, traditional applications, transactional reporting, and kind of the initial part of the internet, which happened several years ago. And one of the discussions yesterday with the press, he seemed to be a little frustrated that his IT department won't necessarily allow him to use his mobile clients in the way that he wants, to do storage backup in the way that he wants. And we hear this challenge from IT departments frequently. He's laughing in the front row here. And the point is that with the consumerization of IT, with the capability that's been provided to them in their mobile devices, the times have changed dramatically. Companies must become more business-centric. You know, I remember some 20 years ago, they kind of changed the title of the person running the IT department from the Vice President of Infrastructure, or IT, to Chief Information Officer. And now, of course, you have Chief Security Officer and Chief Customer Officer. But the point is that the function of the IT was to enable business applications to create competitive differentiation. And IT is challenged based upon all the things that are occurring around cloud, around the explosion of devices, around the Internet of everything. Instead of looking at traditional transactional reporting, you have streams of data and analytics that are occurring every moment. We think about the explosion of connected devices, the Internet of everything, the number of connected things on security applications, on transactional information. This data needs to be collected on a real-time basis, not put into a data center and stored and looked at on kind of a behind-the-scenes basis.
After reminding the audience that IT budgets are not increasing and that today more is expected from less, Burns talked about the transformation of the data center into a container of software-defined facilities and the blurring of the traditional disciplines of storage, compute, and networking. And it was networking he turned to next.
Now, as I'm the GM of networking, it wouldn't be good if I didn't talk a little bit about networking. So Dell actually announced its open networking initiative about 2 years ago. We were the first branded OEM to actually disaggregate the hardware and software. And if we look at the traditional IT from a networking perspective, this has been a proprietary stack. If you look at software-defined, networking has been the laggard. And there's many reasons for that. Some of them business reasons of companies having very significant gross margins and wanting to protect that, but some of it also technology reasons. But what we saw is that the technology was commoditizing, merchant silicon was becoming available, and actually third-party software was being developed. So as Dell has done in its histories with personal computers and with the transformation of mainframe to x86, we took the leap and said, why shouldn't we offer our customers great hardware with the choice of software, giving them more agility, more capability, and really the flexibility to make the choices that they need based upon the networking requirements they must have. Not necessarily all 1,000 networking protocols that we're very familiar with, but we know, in my case, as we visit customers, of those 1,000 protocols, probably less than 10% are actually being used.
Burns said that Dell protects the customer's infrastructure because its data center switches can run third-party software, and that many companies are reverting now from a purely public cloud setup to a hybrid model.
With Dell Technologies, we have the capability to help customers enable a hybrid cloud. And let's be clear, our strategy and our belief and what we communicate to our customers and partners is that hybrid cloud is the appropriate for most cases. Whether it's on-premise, we have the Dell EMC infrastructure, we have VMware for orchestration, we have the relationships with Microsoft and Red Hat in the OpenStack environment, or now also off-premise. Partnerships with companies such as Amazon, our own assets such as VirtuStream, VMware Cloud, vCloud Air, we can help customers enable both on and off-premise capabilities. So why did we do it? We did it because we believe that companies are going through a huge digital transformation. They need to move from traditional IT and start to put some of their investment and focus towards modern applications, modern capabilities, and connectivity. We believe that scalability and size is important because with the size of our supply chain, our purchasing power, our logistics capability, our worldwide presence with over thousands of partners around the world. We can drive the cost of technology down while enabling our customers to modernize their IT. And we can do this both off-prem and on-prem. That's why we did it. Thanks very much.
Manik Dubhash then interviewed Tom Burns on stage. After answering a couple of questions about the sale of Dell's services arm and the timescale for success of the merger, Burns talked about the company's carrier strategy. And was it for his carrier experience that Dell pulled him away from Alcatel-Lucent?
Well, it's not my original reason of coming to Dell. And in fact, when I was asked to run networking, I actually started laughing. I said, really, networking? But then I saw the compute, the storage capabilities, some of the other software capabilities, and the tradition of Dell to be disruptive, and I got pretty excited. After being there for a period of time, we saw the opportunity in the service provider space, originally around network function virtualization, originally around the replacement of proprietary equipment with more x86 capabilities. And that's when Marius and a few others said, well, we've got this guy from Alcatel-Lucent, why don't we let him do that? And over the course of kind of the initial 12 months of working mostly in the NFV area with telco, we recognized that what we had been doing in the web scale accounts for many years is exactly what service providers were either trying to do, some of them were doing already, if you look at the smaller managed service providers and so forth. And so we've decided to kind of double down in this space. So we will be creating a solutions group focused on service provider. I will head that, I hope, currently in my title anyways. And we'll build solutions for this particular market. And we'll have kind of a very focused go-to-market approach, because selling to these types of customers is also quite different. So I think I did get tapped because of my telco experience. But at the same time, we see a tremendous opportunity. The other customers is the incredible reach that Dell has always had, everything from consumer, selling PCs to the home, to small and medium enterprise, and to some Fortune 1000. But now with the EMC customer base, really a global company that addresses everything from consumer all the way up to the very largest enterprises and very largest service providers.
He then talked about the alignment between the two cultures at Dell and EMC.
When the acquisition was announced, they immediately started doing studies and employee surveys around culture and what's important to each company. And they surveyed around 50,000 plus employees, and they asked them to say, identify the top 5 priorities to EMC or to Dell. And when they brought it together, the 5 were exactly the same between the two companies. So one thing is that Michael doesn't believe we've got this big culture thing that we've got to adjust right away, or he's got his culture and Joe Tucci had his culture. Customer-focused, innovation, a focus on performance, obviously, versus the market and our competition, but very common. The second thing, and we chatted about this a little bit, I have never seen a CEO in my career, which is moving on 30-something years now, that is more passionate, more dedicated, and more focused on his customers, our customers, and the company. And he works incredibly hard. And what's amazing is he's having fun. So I just believe that this passion that he started some 32 years ago in his dorm room by building a few PCs is continuing all the way today in managing and driving a 70 billion plus revenue company with 140,000 employees that are very focused on our customers.
Burns was then asked about the possibility of more acquisitions, which he perhaps predictably deflected. But Dubhash then asked about the acquisition strategy and whether Dell EMC might acquire companies just to take out the competition.
I don't believe that that's been our traditional strategy, to just go after a company to take out competition. It's been more an address of acquiring to complement our solutions for customers. If I think about the networking acquisition of Force 10, I say it was both an offensive but also a defensive move. It was a defense because they saw actually one of our technology partners, Cisco, moving into the compute space. So it was a way to kind of protect having both the compute and networking capability, but it was also kind of an offensive way because it was a technology that had been traditionally proprietary, and we can move that forward to be much more open. And I think that type of an approach will continue. I mean, obviously, or not obviously, we do have within what was Dell Ventures Group, in fact, the person who used to run it was here yesterday, Jim, and we had EMC Ventures. So we do look at early startups and small companies to potentially invest in because we believe in their technology and capabilities. And by the way, sometimes our acquisitions could come through those types of investments or other partners that may buy them. So I don't see moving forward to acquire to knock out competition, but again, bigger minds than I may have different ideas.
After claiming that being a private company means that Dell EMC can be more agile, Burns was then asked about the company's mobile strategy.
Okay, so the strategy around mobility, I mean, obviously we have one of the largest mobile end user client businesses in the world today with our end user client business, whether it be PCs and tablets. Michael has said publicly we're not going to get into the mobile phone business. Dell was in that many years ago and made a decision to get out. That being said, we're also starting to build these basically IoT gateways, which will connect or allow connection to many mobile devices or mobile assets or ID devices that are exploding across the world. And so we'll play a very important role on the underlying infrastructure and software, but we won't necessarily enter into every piece of the puzzle from a mobility standpoint. I don't see us getting into personal mobile devices, and even some, other than the client, even some of the home market. But what we want is how does that connect back, either to a gateway, kind of an aggregation area, the data center, and then get back to the appropriate users and people that need that information and so forth. Now, very specifically to networking, if the question is around wireless networking and the connectivity there, we have very strong partnerships with Aerohive. We continue to support our W series. We actually believe that much of the wired and wireless will be managed in the future, particularly for medium and small enterprises, and that's why we're putting a very strong focus in the service provider and telco space to help them enable that, either through our own underlying infrastructure or with partners' technologies.
He was then asked about the company's relationships with Microsoft, given the competitive positions of their respective virtualization products. Would that change the way that Dell EMC offers services to its customers?
No, I don't believe so. I think that since the start of Dell, we've always provided choice to our customers. And that choice is based upon what they are trying to enable. Our job as their partner is to help provide them avenues that enable this modern IT. And in certain cases, that might be VMware. In other cases, it may be Microsoft, or it may be OpenStack. And we support all three today, either through now directly owning, while VMware remains very independent, or through strong partnerships such as Microsoft or Red Hat. We've built the cloud platform solution, the CPS platform with Microsoft that continues to be a strong focus. We're trying to determine how could we bring in more of the EMC assets to create more differentiation with Microsoft. And we'll continue to invest in this choice. EMC had a very strong relationship with Cisco. We recognize that Customers may want to continue with Cisco, and we're not going to do anything to hinder kind of that collaboration if it's effective. But from a Dell EMC networking perspective, if those customers choose, again, based upon traditional or future-ready IT, or based upon the fact that they want a second source or an alternative source, we'll be ready and prepared to give them that through Dell EMC networking. So I think that there's a bit of cooperation and co-opetition, but I don't see a lot of change in how we offer this choice to our customers under Dell EMC or Dell Technologies. And I think it's very important to Michael as well that the VMware shareholders recognize that we're not going to do anything to disrupt their capability to be, in essence, agnostic. You know, he's publicly stated he's not going to insist that they don't, virtualize HP servers, as an example, if the customer's choice is there. So I think you'll see this continue to be invested in.
And following a series of questions on sales incentives, relationships with third-party suppliers, and about mobile devices, the session drew to a close.